It's at the Arizona Supreme Court, and we'll see what happens. All we're asking for, Mark, is the Supreme Court to take a look at what happened and make sure that election officials across our state follow the law.
And welcome back to Square Off. Just 2 days until her Republican primary for the U.S. Senate, and candidate Kari Lake is waiting to hear whether the Arizona Supreme Court will declare her the winner of the 2022 election for governor that she lost. That might help explain why a top Republican donor is panicking that Lake will lose the Senate race in the general election. The Republican U.S. Senate primary is one of the top races to watch on Tuesday. We're back with Republican Christine Jones, Democrat Adam Kinsey. So let's get to what Randy Kendrick said. Late last week, the Washington Post reported on an email that Randy Kendrick, she is a major Republican donor and the spouse of Arizona Diamondbacks owner Ken Kendrick. She sent an email to people on her entire Christmas card list, as she called it. Kendrick warned them that Kari Lake, quote, cannot win the general election against Democrat Ruben Gallego. I have tried to help, she says, and worked on this, and apparently cannot overcome it. There is no time for blame or analysis. These are just the facts. Kendrick urged a vote for Pinal County Sheriff Mark Lamb. Christine, you know Randy Kendrick. What do you make of this?
Yeah, in full disclosure, she is a friend of mine. I think Randy Kendrick is one of the most powerful and prolific fundraisers for two reasons. She knows a lot of people, and she's a super hard worker. So when she says, look, I have tried, and I haven't been able to get Lake over the hump in a general election matchup, she means it. And so, you know, to pivot now to try to find another candidate that she feels will fare better in the general election is classic Kendrick. And I understand what she's doing. Unfortunately, maybe a minute too late, right? Because I think the returns now that we're seeing as of last week, 60 to 65% of the ballots are in. So maybe too little too late, but God bless her for trying.
Do you agree with her?
I think I've seen some of the polls that she's referring to, and certainly in a head-to-head, Lamb is polling much stronger against Gallego than Lake is at the moment. So probably just on the pure numbers, I don't typically endorse people in primaries, but just on the pure numbers, she's not wrong.
She's not wrong. Would Ruben Gallego rather face Kari Lake or Mark Lamb in a general?
Ruben Gallego is a strong candidate against either of them, but you're putting me in a very uncomfortable position, and I've got to agree with Randy Kendrick. But Christine's right. Courage of your convictions. I mean, she could have waited till Wednesday, I suppose, after the election to make this announcement. But why get in so late and say this when the ballots are already in? It's a strategically questionable decision. But Kari Lake is a proven commodity. Statewide, she has been rejected by voters before. She'll be rejected by them again. And personally, I'm rooting for her to win that primary, and I think she will by a significant margin.
And is this a sort of passive-aggressive move? Randy Kendrick is planting an Easter egg that is just going to be there all the way through the election that Ruben Gallego will be able to point to and say, hey, look at this. Your own people are saying you can't win.
Perhaps, but I know one thing about Kendrick, and that is when she says, I'm going to support Lake in the general if she wins, she means it. She will come out with full force, because one thing Republicans do not want is Ruben Gallego in the United States Senate.
But see, here's the problem with that, is that the national party, the NRSC, one of the latest buys didn't include Kari Lake's race, one of the only front lines. And then you look at other things, and this is just optics, but when you're looking at the VIP booth of the RNC recently, why was every single frontline U.S. Senate candidate in the booth with Trump except for Kari Lake? Ever since she wore out her welcome at Mar-a-Lago, she's had this real problem with the national donors. And now Arizona's largest donor is saying they don't want her. So Kari Lake is spending more money than she can raise, and she's looking very, very wounded heading into the general election.
All right, let's move on to the other top races to watch. The Maricopa County Recorder race being watched nationally because of its potential impact on our elections. We are a swing county in a swing state. Incumbent Stephen Richer opposed by two Trump allies, State Representative Justin Heap, self-proclaimed data guy Don Hyatt. Christine, can Stephen Richer survive this primary?
I think he's at risk. Obviously, as the incumbent, he has an advantage. It's tricky, though, when you're the guy that's running and you're the guy that's counting the votes. So, you know, he has to take a little bit of a hands-off approach.
To be clear, he doesn't count the votes.
I understand.
There's a misperception about what Stephen Richer does. I understand it, but...
And the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors supervises the election for clarity. But the truth of the matter is that is a race where we probably won't know the answer until several days after, because I think it's a toss-up at this point.
Toss-up.
I mean, it shouldn't be that close, but it probably is. You're right. And Christine makes a great point about the Board of Supervisors. Those races and those primaries probably have a larger impact on elections and whether we deny the outcomes or not. I'm looking at things like Tom Galvin versus an extremely unhinged Michelle Ugenti-Rita. And that really is sort of the battle, not just for the soul of the Republican Party, I think, but also for how we run elections. And are we going to deny elections and have election denialism be sort of the new standard?
And all 5 Maricopa County supervisors are on the ballot. Very important races as well. Yeah. Let's go to CD1 in Central Phoenix, Scottsdale, Paradise Valley. This is one of several House seats around the country that are toss-ups that could flip the House back to Democrats, or Republicans could keep it. The candidates: Andre Cherney, Connor O'Callaghan, Maureen Galan-Woods, Amish Shah, David Horn, Kirk Cromer. Adam, who wins?
Beats me.
And you don't have any horse in this race?
I don't have any horse in the race. All of them have run really good races. Amish Shah's field game is unmatched. You know, he knocks on every door a couple of times, and that's really hard to beat. A lot of people thought it was hard to replicate doing that for a House race. And a congressional race are very different things, but apparently he's been able to do it pretty well. You've got Andre Cherney, who's incredibly smart and has a lot of institutional support. Marlene Galan-Woods is certainly an interesting candidate, and she's run a great race. Connor O'Callaghan, any of them could end up doing it. What I know for sure is that the party is definitely looking at AZ1 as a red to blue pickup, and whoever emerges will be the favorite to beat David Schweikert and win that seat, I think. And they haven't done a ton of damage to each other in the primary, which is really key. Nobody's going to come out of this that wounded.
Yeah.
Christine?
Well, I don't have a sense of the Democratic primary, but David Schweikert's got to get through his own primary because he's running against former FBI agent Kim George, who is a really stand-up candidate.
Will he?
No, I think he wins,
okay.
Right? Just by name recognition. But don't count out David Schweikert, because he has emerged in these races when everybody thought he was left for dead and still somehow manages to eke out a win.
7-term congressman.
Yeah.
That tells you something right there.
Incumbents have an advantage.
Got to end it. Adam Kinsey, Christine Jones, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Bram.
An important reminder about Sunday Square-Off's new time during the Olympics. We're on at 6:30 p.m. on Saturdays on 12 News. That's our show for this week. Thanks very much to all of our guests. Thank you so much for joining us. See you back here next weekend for another round of Sunday Square Off.